The moment a narcissist sees that they can disrespect you and nothing happens after it, the game starts turning in their favor. Not because you are weak, not because you have no value. It happens because you are still playing fair with someone who was never trying to play fair at all. And that is the part many people miss. They think if they stay calm enough, explain well enough, love hard enough, or wait long enough, the other person will suddenly become reasonable. Usually that moment never comes. But there are a few strong words, simple words, quiet words, words without panic and without emotional begging that can change the whole energy in seconds. And by the end of this, you will know exactly what to say when someone tries to control you, talk down to you, twist your feelings, or make you question yourself. Have you ever left a conversation and thought, why did I stay quiet? Have you ever replayed a disrespectful moment for hours, maybe even for days, thinking of all the things you should have said? If yes, stay with me, because this is not about winning some dramatic argument. It is about ending a pattern that keeps stealing your peace. A narcissist's biggest advantage is not their charm, not their confidence, not even their manipulation by itself. Their biggest advantage is your hesitation, your need to explain, your hope that if you say it the right way, they will finally care. But the truth is harsh and freeing at the same time. They often understand how you feel very well. They just care more about keeping control than protecting your feelings. That is why long explanations often fail. That is why boundaries, not debates, become your real power. And once you see that clearly, everything starts to change. Listen closely because this next part matters more than most people realize. One of the strongest things you can say is this: that does not work for me. Simple, clean, hard to twist. Narcissists usually test limits before they respect them. That truth alone can save you years of confusion. Many people believe respect should come naturally in every relationship, whether it is romantic, family, work, or friendship. But narcissistic people often move differently. They watch, they test, they look for small openings. Maybe they interrupt you again and again. Maybe they joke at your expense and call it humor. Maybe they dismiss your opinions, push into your privacy, expect special treatment, or act like your time belongs to them. At first, it can look small, almost harmless. But often, it is not small at all. It is a test. They are checking how much you will tolerate before you push back. Because boundaries show consequences. A narcissist wants to know whether your limit is real or whether it is only something you say when you are upset. If you tell them something hurts you, but you keep accepting it, they learn something very fast. They learn that your boundary bends. Then the behavior often gets worse because now they feel safer doing more of it. But when you answer with calm and steady action, the message becomes different. You are showing them that your limits are not up for discussion. And notice this carefully. You do not need a speech. You do not need threats. You do not need drama. In fact, too much emotion can feed the exact attention and conflict they enjoy. What changes the pattern is not intensity, it is consistency. If someone speaks to you with disrespect and you calmly end the conversation every single time, they begin to see that access to you comes with terms. That lesson is never taught by begging, it is taught by follow-through. And if you keep watching because this next shift is powerful, you will see why fewer words often protect you more than better words. Another truth that changes everything is this: explanations open the door to manipulation, but clarity shuts that door fast. Most people think that if they explain themselves well enough, the other person will understand and respect their choice. In healthy relationships, that can happen. With a narcissist, the pattern is usually different. They do not always listen to understand. They often listen to find weak spots. Every extra detail can become something to question, something to attack, something to twist into guilt. Imagine saying no to something and then spending 5 minutes explaining why. A narcissist may ignore your actual answer and lock onto the explanation. They may challenge your reasons, point out one exception, accuse you of being unfair, say you are inconsistent, or make you feel selfish for having a limit at all. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about your boundary. Now it becomes a trial. Now you are defending your decision as if you need permission to make it. That shift is where they gain power. The more you defend, the longer they keep you in the ring. The longer you stay there, the more tired and unsure you become. But clarity works differently. A clear sentence does not invite much debate. I am not available. I made my decision. That does not work for me. I am not discussing this. Those statements focus on the outcome, not the explanation. They leave very little space for someone to pull you into an endless argument. Many people worry that being brief will sound cold or rude. But clear is not cruel, calm is not mean, simple is not selfish. You are not required to build a full legal case every time you protect your peace. The moment you stop over-explaining, you close many of the doors manipulation needs to enter. And when those doors close, the conversation gets shorter, the pressure gets lighter, and your choices stay in your hands. Keep going, because the next part is where many people finally stop confusing strength with noise. Confidence is often far more powerful than confrontation, especially with a narcissist. That sounds strange at first, because people assume the answer is to fight back harder, speak louder, or finally explode after holding everything in for too long. But narcissistic people are often ready for confrontation. They know how to handle anger. They know how to turn a fight into a show. Many times, confrontation gives them exactly what they want: attention, emotional energy, and a chance to move the focus away from what they did and onto how you reacted. Once the tone rises, once the room gets hot, once voices get sharp, the original problem can vanish inside the chaos. Then they may deny, blame, play the victim, or make it all about your reaction. That is why confidence matters more. Confidence does not need volume. It does not need force. It does not need the last word. It comes from being settled inside your decision and grounded in your own limits. A confident person can say no without guilt. They can disagree without becoming shaky. They can leave a dead-end conversation without feeling they failed. That kind of calm is hard to control. It is hard to bait. It is hard to break. And that is exactly why it works. A narcissist often looks for emotional openings, those little cracks where guilt, shame, fear, or self-doubt can enter. But when they meet someone calm, steady, and sure of their position, many of their usual tools stop working the same way. True confidence also sends another message without saying much at all. It says, I respect myself enough that your opinion does not decide my worth. I do not need to dominate you to protect myself. I do not need to humiliate you to prove a point. My actions will speak for me. That quiet certainty usually hits harder than a dramatic speech ever could. And if this is clicking for you, stay to the end, because the next idea is the one that helps people stop waiting for approval they were never going to get. You do not need their agreement to enforce a boundary. Read that again in your mind if you need to. You do not need their agreement. This is where many people get stuck, especially kind people, patient people, people who were taught that good communication means long discussion, compromise, and mutual understanding every single time. In healthy relationships, yes, that can be true. But with a narcissist, waiting for understanding can become a trap. A lot of people delay action because they are still hoping the other person will finally understand, finally agree, finally admit the limit is fair. And while they wait, the disrespect keeps going. A narcissist often uses that hesitation well. They know if they can keep you in the discussion, they can keep you from acting. But a boundary is not a request for approval. It is not a group vote. It is not a debate topic. A boundary is a decision about what you will and will not continue to accept. Whether the other person likes it is not the point. They may laugh at it. They may call you selfish. They may say you are dramatic or too sensitive. They may demand endless reasons. None of that changes the boundary unless you let it. If you decide that yelling ends the conversation, then yelling ends the conversation. If you decide that insults reduce access to you, then insults reduce access. They may not agree. They may not clap for your growth. They may become angry that you are no longer staying in the old role they benefited from. Let them feel what they feel. Your job is not to make them comfortable with your standards. Your job is to follow through. Many people mix up boundaries and negotiation, but they are not the same thing. Negotiation needs two willing people. A boundary needs only one person who is done betraying themselves. And once you stop asking for permission to protect your peace, something deep inside you starts coming back online. Stay here because what gives a narcissist power is often not your feelings, it is your reactions. The less emotional fuel you give them, the less control they usually have over you. This is one of the strongest principles when dealing with narcissistic behavior. Many narcissists feed on reaction, not always in obvious ways, but in real ways. Their sense of power often grows when they can change your emotional state, when they can make you angry, guilty, scared, desperate, defensive, or confused. The emotion itself becomes proof that they can still reach inside your peace and shake it. That is why tiny disagreements can suddenly stretch into exhausting, never-ending conflicts. The goal is often not peace, the goal is reaction, and when they get that reaction, they learn. They learn your pressure points. They learn which words trigger you, which fears live inside you, which topics get under your skin, which insecurities still hurt. Then those same tools often show up again, because now they know they work. This is why emotional outbursts, though understandable, can sometimes hand them a map for future manipulation. That does not mean your emotions are wrong. They are human. They matter. You do not need to become a robot. You do not need to pretend that hurt does not hurt. The real issue is not whether you feel. The issue is whether your feelings get used against you in the moment. Reacting fast can give away power. Responding with thought can protect it. Calm words, short answers, clear limits. These things give very little material to work with. If someone throws an insult at you, hoping to pull you into a long emotional fight, and you simply say, "I am not continuing this conversation," and then you act on that, the reward disappears. The scene loses energy. The game stops feeding itself. Emotional control is often mistaken for weakness, but it is actually disciplined strength. It means your behavior is guided by your values, not by another person's attempt to pull your strings. And in a moment, I will show you why shorter statements often work better than the long speeches people spend all night rehearsing in their head. Short, firm statements usually work better than long defenses. This is where a lot of people finally breathe again. Because the truth is, many narcissistic people turn conversation into a tool for control. They can take one simple issue and stretch it into circles so long that you forget how it even began. Many good people believe that if they explain more clearly, more deeply, more completely, they will finally be understood. In balanced relationships, detailed communication can help. But with a narcissist, long explanations often become raw material. Every sentence is another piece they can grab, question, twist, mock, or throw back at you later. The more you speak, the more places they have to enter. So instead of your boundary staying strong and simple, the whole thing becomes messy. Now they are arguing about your reasons. Then they are arguing about your tone. Then they are arguing about one detail from 20 minutes ago. Then somehow, you are defending your whole personality. This is how people end up emotionally drained after what should have been a 2-minute boundary. Short statements stop that cycle before it can grow teeth. No, that will not work for me. I made my decision. I am not discussing this further. We can talk when this is respectful. These lines are not fancy, and that is why they are effective. They do not overfeed the conversation. They do not hand over weak spots. They hold the line without turning your boundary into a public debate. And notice this too, brief does not mean rude. Firm does not mean heartless. You can stay respectful while also refusing to be pulled into endless proving. The point is not to silence someone. The point is to stop performing your pain for someone who keeps using it as leverage. When your words get simpler, your standards become easier to hold. And once that happens, the whole dynamic starts to lose its old grip. But there is an even deeper shift coming, because respect often changes the moment access to you is no longer free. Respect usually starts when access becomes conditional. This is a hard lesson, but it changes lives when people truly understand it. If someone can disrespect you again and again and still receive your time, your attention, your warmth, your emotional support, your long replies, your presence, and your patience as if nothing happened, then from their point of view, there is very little reason to change. The relationship keeps moving, the door stays open, the supply keeps flowing. So the disrespect becomes a pattern instead of an accident. Access is valuable, your attention is valuable, Your availability is valuable. Your trust, your energy, your listening ear, your care, your time, all of these are valuable. In healthy relationships, these things are appreciated. With a narcissist, they can easily be treated like entitlement. That is why simply asking for better treatment often does not go far enough. Words alone do not always shift behavior when the behavior still gets rewarded. Making access conditional does not mean becoming cruel, cold, or controlling. It means finally recognizing that closeness to you should be connected to mutual respect. If someone insults you in conversation, maybe the conversation ends. If the disrespect keeps repeating, maybe contact gets reduced. If your limits are ignored again and again, maybe their place in your life changes completely. Those actions send a message far louder than another emotional explanation ever will. They say, "My presence is not a prize you keep while treating me badly." And consistency is what gives this power. If you enforce a limit one day and erase it the next, the lesson gets blurred. But when consequences are steady, people learn the pattern. Many narcissists may never truly value your feelings the way you hoped they would, but they often notice when disrespect leads to less access instead of more attention. That is when the ground shifts. That is when your energy stops feeling endlessly available for misuse. And if you stay with me, the next point may be the one that changes the whole atmosphere in your relationships. Your willingness to walk away changes the entire dynamic. Why? Because it removes one of the biggest powers a narcissist often believes they have, the belief that no matter what they do, you will still stay. Many manipulative people get very comfortable pushing limits because they think there is little real risk. They assume that after the blame, the guilt trips, the criticism, the emotional games, the relationship will keep going exactly the same. They believe the pattern is safe for them, and that belief makes them bold. But the moment they feel that your peace matters more to you than keeping the connection at any cost, the atmosphere changes. Suddenly, the old tactics do not feel as safe. Suddenly, there is a real possibility of loss. And that possibility changes behavior faster than many arguments ever will. Now, this does not mean walking away is always easy. Sometimes it is painful, sometimes it is messy. Sometimes the relationship is tied to family, work, or history, and leaving fully is not simple. But even then, the inner decision matters. You stop chasing, you stop trying to prove, you stop begging to be seen correctly, you stop treating disrespect like a misunderstanding that still needs one more perfect explanation, and in that shift, your power starts returning. Listen carefully, because this is the heart of it. Narcissists do not usually change because of the perfect emotional speech. They do not change because you finally found magical words that melted their ego. They change their behavior when they see the old methods no longer bring the same reward. When over-explaining stops. When emotional chaos stops feeding them. When boundaries get enforced instead of discussed forever. When your presence is no longer guaranteed no matter how they act. That is what makes the old system break. And if this is helping you see things more clearly, keep going, because the final truth is the one most people learn far too late. So if there is one thing to remember, remember this. Your power was never in finding the perfect argument. It was never in saying just the right sentence that would finally make them care, finally make them admit the truth, finally make them respect you from the heart. Your real power is in deciding what you will no longer allow. That is where the shift begins. Every boundary you keep, every calm response you choose, every time you refuse to join a pointless fight, every time you leave a disrespectful exchange instead of staying to explain your pain one more time. Every one of those moments sends a message, not through revenge, not through cruelty, not through loud drama, through self-respect. And that kind of message is hard to ignore because it is backed by action. The hardest truth for many people is that respect is not something you beg for, chase for, or earn by sacrificing yourself until the other person finally feels guilty. Real respect starts the moment you act like your own peace matters. It starts when your worth is no longer up for negotiation. It starts when your standards stop depending on whether someone approves of them. Because the moment a person realizes they can no longer twist your emotions, trample your limits, or keep taking your presence for granted, they are forced to deal with a different version of you, a version they cannot manage the same old way. And that is the point. The goal was never to control the narcissist. The goal was to stop giving them control over you. Let that land. Really let it land. Because when your peace matters more than their approval, when your boundaries matter more than their opinions, and when your self-respect becomes non-negotiable, something powerful happens inside you first, even before the relationship changes on the outside. And here is the deeper ending most people do not expect. The person who changes the most is not them. It is you. You become harder to confuse, harder to bait, harder to guilt, harder to keep in the same old cycle. You stop standing in conversations trying to rescue your image in the eyes of someone committed to misunderstanding you. You stop confusing access with love. You stop mistaking emotional intensity for connection. You start noticing that peace feels more valuable than being right. You start seeing that silence can be stronger than one more defense. You begin to understand that protecting yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. It is sane. It is mature. And when that shift happens, people feel it. Even before you say much, they feel it. Your energy changes. Your pauses change. Your yes becomes more honest. Your no becomes more solid. Your presence no longer says, "Do not leave me." It starts saying, "Treat me well or lose access." That is not ego. That is self-respect in motion. And if you have spent years trying to keep the peace by swallowing hurt, listen to this carefully. Keeping the peace is not the same as abandoning yourself. Staying calm does not mean staying available for disrespect. Being understanding does not mean becoming easy to use. There is a big difference. And the moment you learn that difference, your whole life starts to feel less heavy. You do not need to become cruel. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to become someone else. You only need to become more loyal to your own limits than to someone else's comfort. That is where strength lives. That is where freedom begins. And once you truly see it, you can never fully unsee it again. So the next time someone tries to belittle you, push your limits, mock your feelings, speak over you, pull you into a trap, or make you work for basic respect, do not rush to prove your heart. Do not rush to explain your history. Do not rush to defend your right to feel what you feel. Slow down, breathe once, then answer from a place that is clean and settled. That does not work for me. I am not discussing this. I made my decision. We can talk when this is respectful. I am leaving this conversation now. These are not just phrases. They are signals. They tell the other person that the old version of access is ending. They tell your nervous system that you are no longer trapped. They tell your mind that you do not need to perform pain to prove it exists. And maybe the most important thing they tell you is this: your value does not rise or fall based on whether a narcissist agrees with your boundary. That truth alone can save years of emotional exhaustion. So if you have been waiting for the perfect moment to stop the pattern, maybe this is it. Not a dramatic ending, not a huge confrontation, just a quiet, serious decision that your peace is worth protecting now, not later. Because the real turning point is not when they suddenly become fair. The real turning point is when you stop building your life around that hope. And once that happens, the game changes. The fear changes. The pressure changes. The script changes. And finally, so do you. If this hit home, hold on to it. Come back to it. Use it. Because the words matter, yes, but the power is not in the words alone. The power is in the part of you that means them.